Welcome back to PHQ News Central Television. The Nigerian Senate has directed the Central Bank of Nigeria to adjust its recently announced cash withdrawal limit policy. There had been strong indications that the Nigerian Senate may have a disagreement with the management of the Apex Bank over the policy following the mixed reactions the policy sparked nationwide. Many Nigerians say the move is unrealistic considering the economic situation in the country, and especially for the country's informal sector and points of sale, popularly referred to as POS operators. Now, joining me live from Lagos, Nigeria to discuss this issue is Dr. Muda Yusuf, the Chief Executive Officer, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. A warm welcome to you and thanks for joining us on PHQ.
Thank you, Gbenga. It's a pleasure.
Now, Dr. Yusuf, what do you make of the CBN's cash withdrawal limit policy, and what is it intended to do?
Well, it was, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the whole essence is to advance the course of the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. In other words, to create an economy where we use less cash. Basically, I think that is the objective on paper. But it will seem that the bigger objective, or the unspoken objective, additional to that, is to deal with the issue of vote buying, particularly, so that we can reduce the amount of cash, so that politicians will not be able to indulge in these nefarious activities of vote buying. Although that was not stated on paper, but from all indications, I think it was also targeted at the politicians.
Now, is this meant to be a permanent policy that, Nigerians won't be able to withdraw more than 100,000 naira per week, just to force people to buy into the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, or it's a stopgap measure? Because you mentioned the elections, because I mean, if they go ahead with it, does it mean that after the electioneering period, things will go back to normal? Hello? Hello, Dr. Yusuf, are you there? Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you need me to repeat the question, or did you get my question?
Yes, well, the limits that were set were actually unrealistic, and I think that was the point that was the National Assembly was making. And the whole essence of the policy itself, I think it was something that, for me, it was unnecessary, because we have made significant progress as far as this cashless policy is concerned. The total money in the economy as at October was 50.6 trillion naira. The cash in the economy was 2.8 trillion naira. That was just
Okay, we'll try and re-establish connection with Dr. Muda Yusuf, the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. We're discussing the controversy over the CBN's monetary policy of, stopping the withdrawal limit of Nigerians and putting a cap to it to encourage more Nigerians to go into cashless banking. Okay, we have Dr. Yusuf back.
Now, the point I was making was that as far as the cashless policy is concerned, Nigeria has made significant progress. And I was saying that the total cash in the economy, or the total money in the economy, was 50.6 trillion as at October. The total money in circulation outside the bank was 2.8 trillion. So we are talking about just 5.5% of cash component of money that is outside the banking system. That is not too much, really. Because again, if you look at some other metrics that you use to measure cash dominance in an economy, you use cash to GDP ratio. Cash to GDP ratio in Nigeria is just 1.8%. Because currently our GDP is around 180 trillion. And we are talking about a cash component of just about 3 trillion. Cash to GDP is 1.8%.
I mean, so knowing all of
the lowest that we find around the world.
So knowing all of this, and I'm sure the bankers, the central bankers, would have looked at all this data too. Do you think it was a well thought through idea? Because there are also concerns about the underbanked in the rural areas.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. And that is why there is this hue and cry about the policy. We have many of our people in the rural areas where there are no banks, where you have all these internet failures, and some of them don't even have that much confidence in the banking system. We have a large component of our traders in the informal sector. Many of them, most of them still deal in cash. We have many of our people in the trading sector. The trading sector is a very big sector in the economy. It accounts for about 14% of GDP. In 2021, the trade sector contributed about 23 trillion to this economy. And most of them still use a lot of cash. Even though we have made a lot of progress in the cashless, but you need to reckon with the component or the segment of the population that still deal a lot with cash. And they are not that many. We can afford to accommodate them and gradually give them incentives to come on board into the banking system. So the policy in the first place was unnecessary. Given the disruption that's caused, given the fact that you have made a lot of progress, and if you look at the data that you use to measure cash dominance in the economy, our economy is one of the best. We have the least cash dominance, even better than some advanced economies. So it is really unnecessary. It's an unnecessary distraction, as far as I'm concerned.
Dr. Yusuf, you say it's an unnecessary distraction, but the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, says the policy is good for the economy, that he met President Buhari and President Buhari directed him to implement this policy. So do you see any positives in this?
No significant positives, if you ask me. No significant positives. Because we are talking of cash, which is just 5.5% of total money. 93% of money is still within the banking system. Let us interpret data correctly to guide policy. Policy must be data-driven. If you have
Hello, Dr. Yusuf, can you hear me? Are you still with us? Okay, we'll try and re-establish connection with Dr. Muda Yusuf, the Chief Executive Officer, Center for Promotion of Private Exercise. We have him back online. So before we lost connection, we were talking about some of the positives, if there are any.
Yeah, so the point I'm making is that having made this much progress, you don't have to disrupt the entire economy to achieve just the little that we need to achieve. If you have 93% of your money inside the banking system, so what is the problem? We don't have to go through all of this.
Now, Dr. Yusuf, the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The decision of the National Assembly is fine. The CBN should go back and review its policy, because just as we said, it's going to put jobs at risk in the informal economy, in the rural economy, and the POS operators. Most of them are small businesses, micro enterprises. It's a thriving business that is just coming up. But go and disrupt it again, for goodness sake. I think all of this is about elections. That's my view. It's about politicians, they are targeting so that they cannot use cash. Because in terms of the economic benefits, it's insignificant. That's my position. If you look at the data as to how much is in the banking system, how much is outside the banking system, in terms of the totality of money supply.
Now, Dr. Yusuf,
the
Central Bank of Nigeria recently did, with pomp and pageantry, did a presentation of the redesign, or should I say the recoloring of the Naira. What was its purpose, and is that not enough?
You see, the design of the currency and this withdrawal limits, these two initiatives together has no significant value to the economy. Just mark my word. I mean, 6 months, 1 year, we come and revisit this and we'll count what benefit it has actually brought. You know, there was the talk about, okay, people have stuck money in wardrobes in such a way and all of that. Well, maybe. But the security agencies need to do their work. The CBN cannot do everything. The CBN has more important things to focus on. The majority agencies in the country, they have downgraded Nigeria. S&P has downgraded Nigeria. Moody's have downgraded Nigeria. Fitch has downgraded Nigeria. These are things that are more important because it's affecting the credibility of our economy in the international financial system. Those things are more important than all this currency design, limit withdrawal, and all of that. Those are not substantive issues that should engage the attention of the CBN at this time. I'm not saying that these things don't have benefits, but when you look at
when you weigh the cost and benefits, the
economy is facing today, the cost and benefits, there are more important things. The investors in the economy, the citizens in the economy, they are crying about inflation. Investors are worried about exchange rates. They are worried about foreign exchange scarcity. What are we doing about that? And all of these things that the CBN is has no impact on all these things. So we should get our priorities right. If it is vote buying and corruption, let the EFCC, ICPC, the Financial Intelligence Unit, let them go and face that one. Let the CBN focus on its own job. That is my position.
Dr. Yusuf, quite a number of Nigerians also support your position and echo the same sentiments you've been sharing with us this evening. They've said this policy will bring about untold hardship to the generality of the public. Now that the Nigerian Senate, the people's elected representatives, have listened to the yearnings of its people and have stepped in, what are your expectations and what should they really do?
My expectation is that the CBN should heed the advice or the recommendation of the National Assembly, go back to the drawing board. If we ask me, the whole thing should be suspended, actually.
Does the Senate have the powers to do that?
They have the power to tell him. If the Senate has the powers over the president, why would they not have the powers over an appointee of the president? The National Assembly has the power to impeach even the president. Not to talk of an appointee, even the act of the CBN Act. The CBN Act is an act of the National Assembly. It's a legislation of the National Assembly. If we stretch it too far, they will go and amend the act and curtail some of this so-called autonomy. Because no autonomy is absolute. No power is absolute. You have to consult with people. You have to listen to advice. You have to be inclusive in your policy process. That is what we are talking about. The fact that you are autonomous does not mean that you should not be inclusive in your policy process. It does not mean that you cannot consult some critical stakeholders if you want to take a major decision. Nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. That is the spirit around all of this.
Now, Dr. Yusuf,
we give due respect to the National Assembly and go back and review all of these things, because this policy is not going to help anybody. If anything, people who are already suffering from all sorts of headwinds, It's going to compound their problem. I just told you about how devastating inflation has been on the lives of the people. The problem of foreign exchange, the problem of liquidity in the high interest rates. These are bigger issues that will engage the attention of the central bank, not the issue of redesigning currency or limiting withdrawal. That should not be a priority at all at this time. It should not be.
Now, Dr. Yusuf, the central bank has come up with this policy. They've redesigned the Naira. They're quite, the CBN governor claims he has a backing of Mr. President. Now that the matter is with the National Assembly, what would be a good compromise for advocates of the policy and those who are against it, so that there might be some face-saving measures and it's not just entirely jettisoned?
You see, this is not about face-saving. It's about a policy that is sustainable, a policy that will add value to this economy. If the National Assembly are saying that you should go and review the limits, that's fine. That's face-saving enough. But if you ask somebody like me, the whole exercise should be suspended. I will ask the CBN to go and face more critical issues affecting the economy. That will be my personal take. But if you want to be political about it, want to balance interests and deal with some ego issues, of course, the CBN, the National Assembly has given a middle ground that you should go back and tweak it and adjust the limit. That, for me, I think is okay, so that we can save the informal economy, we can save our rural economy, we can save the POS operators, we can save our distributive trade sector. Those will be the target as far as this going to review the policy is concerned. That should be the primary target. And whatever revision is done has to be gauged alongside all these critical, vulnerable segments of the economy to see
Finally, Dr. Yusuf, before I let you go, you did mention that Fitch, Muda, Standard & Poor's, these rating agencies have downgraded Nigeria's economy. How would you rate the performance of the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, his tenure so far?
Well, the performance, I will just put it at average. Let me just put it as an average performance. Because some major issues that I expect the CBN to deal with, the CBN has not done much in those critical areas, especially issues around the credit condition, around cost of credit, more importantly, around the foreign exchange stability, around the issues of the wide gap between the official and the parallel markets window, and the corruption that thing is breeding, the distortions in the foreign exchange market, and all these issues of anchor borrowers program, rice pyramid, and all of that. CBN seems to be doing a lot more outside its mandate than in its own core mandate. That is it. I must commend the efforts on development finance to some extent, because I know some manufacturers, agro-processors have benefited from development finance. It's long-term fund, it's single digit. I must commend the CBN for that. And we have had at least reasonably financial system stability. No bank has gone under, no bank has been distressed, and all of that. We must commend the CBN for that. But as far as some critical macroeconomic variables are concerned, the CBN has not done, I'm not satisfied with the performance of CBN as far as those macroeconomic issues are concerned. And you also see the funding of deficit, the waste and means finances. It's well over 20 trillion when you add everything together. Those things have significant implications for liquidity. That's implications for inflation and even exchange rate itself. So these are some of the fundamental issues which at least one will worry about as far as the performance of the CBN is concerned.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muda Yusuf, Chief Executive Officer, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. It was nice having you on PHQ. Thanks for sharing your insights with us on this.
Thank you very much, and apologies for the internet failure.
These things happen. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, this is where we draw the curtains and PHQ for today. It's been a pleasure doing this with you. You've been a nice company. I'm Gbenga Aborowa, standing in for Sulaiman Alede. Bye-bye.